You know, like those conflicts where it feels like someone's gonna like storm out or something.
Oh, yeah.
Where logic just goes right out the window
Mm-hmm.
and you're both ready to die on a hill made of like dirty dishes or something.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into those like impossible disagreements
Yes.
with Daniel Shapiro's Negotiating the Non-Negotiable as our guide.
Okay.
And we're on a mission to like really understand what's going on beneath the surface
Yeah.
and hopefully walk away with some like actual tactics
Mm-hmm.
to like resolve these relationship landmines.
Right. And the key is, as Shapiro points out, is understanding the often invisible force driving these conflicts.
Okay.
Our own identities.
Okay. So let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think we often approach conflict like it's a logic puzzle.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
But Shapiro says humans aren't just Homo sapiens,
Yeah.
thinking beings. We're also Homo identicus, beings who crave belonging and meaning.
That's right. And that need to belong, to feel secure in our identity, can make us do some seemingly irrational things in conflict.
It's like that experiment he talks about.
Oh, yeah.
Where people would rather let the world explode than betray their group.
Yes.
Which is like, that's deep, man.
It is deep. Yeah, it is deep.
So it's less about the actual issue and more about like what it means to belong.
Precisely, yeah.
Yeah.
When our values, beliefs, our sense of belonging to a particular group, when those are challenged, it triggers a primal response.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's not just a disagreement, it's a threat to our very sense of self.
And that's where this tribes effect comes in.
Yes.
Which I think is like some seriously fascinating stuff.
This is huge.
It's like this invisible switch flips and suddenly we're not just individuals disagreeing.
Right.
We're like warriors defending our tribe.
Think about those online debates about anything these days, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's rarely about the issue itself, is it? It's about signaling which tribe you're with, which it ramps everything up.
Yeah.
Because it becomes about way more than just that thing you're talking about.
It's like our differences get put under this giant magnifying glass.
Yes, exactly.
So how do we even begin to navigate this emotional minefield, especially when it feels like everything's on the line?
Well, Shapiro offers this framework for understanding those emotional reactions, and he calls them the 5 lures of the tribal mind.
Okay.
And these are like siren songs that pull us deeper into the conflict.
Okay.
And I think we've all experienced this. One of them is vertigo.
Oh, vertigo. Tell me you haven't gotten sucked into that emotional whirlwind where you just completely lose sight of everything else. It's like being spun around on a playground roundabout, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You're so dizzy and disoriented.
100%.
You can't even remember how you got there.
Right.
And you definitely can't see a way out.
Right.
So how do we hit the brakes on that emotional roller coaster?
Yeah.
Before things go completely off the rails?
Well, the first thing is just awareness, right?
Yeah.
Just recognizing, oh, wait, like I'm feeling the symptoms of vertigo.
Okay.
Right. I feel completely consumed by this conflict. This person is now the enemy. Right. I'm fixated on all the negative parts of this.
Okay.
That alone can help us create a little distance.
It's like, okay, hold up. Time out. We're in vertigo territory now.
Exactly.
Recognize it.
Yes, recognize it.
But he doesn't just leave us hanging, right?
No. He gives us tools. He gives us tools.
He gives us actual tools to deal with this stuff, like the ACT system for dealing with taboos.
Yes, yes.
Which, I mean, talk about, those unspoken rules, those elephants in the room.
Yeah, everybody's got them.
That can just like derail a conversation before it even begins.
Right.
So how does this ACT system help us navigate those landmines?
Well, the ACT stands for accept, chisel, or tear down.
Okay.
So we can choose to accept the taboo, at least for now.
Mm-hmm.
We can carefully try to chisel away at it over time, or, if necessary, we can tear the whole thing down.
I like it. Sometimes you need a scalpel, sometimes you need a sledgehammer.
That's right. That's right.
But what about those stories we tell ourselves in these conflicts?
Yeah.
Because Shapiro talks about the mythos of identity, right? This idea that we're all kind of living in our own movies with ourselves as the heroes.
Of course, yeah.
And the other side often cast as, well, not so much.
It's true. And those narratives, our own personal mythos, they can be huge roadblocks because they shape how we see ourselves and how we see other people, right? We get so attached to our story, our version of events, that it becomes almost impossible to see the other person's perspective.
It's like, oh, my internal monologue when I'm like arguing with my brother. It's a whole production.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Right. Like, I'm sure I'm the writer, director, and star.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Shapiro argues that by like really understanding our own narratives
Yes.
and being open to the stories of others, we can actually start to bridge that divide.
We can. Instead of getting caught in this battle of narratives, right? My narrative versus your narrative, we can use what he calls creative introspection to try to create a space for dialogue, right? A space where we can acknowledge the emotional pain that is often fueling the conflict in the first place.
Because, let's be honest, beneath all the yelling and the arguing, there's a lot of hurt.
Always.
There are a lot of unmet needs kind of simmering below the surface.
Absolutely. And Shapiro gives us a guide for how to navigate those emotional waters too.
Yeah.
You know, like bearing witness to the pain,
Yeah.
mourning the loss,
Yeah.
contemplating forgiveness, right? These are all like really important parts of the process.
Okay, so this is where it gets really practical
Yeah.
because he introduces the SAS system,
Right.
which I'll admit, when I first read it, I was like, oh, this is very technical.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's actually incredibly helpful. So can you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, it stands for separate, assimilate, and synthesize.
Okay.
And it's a framework for finding solutions that honor everyone's core identity.
So it's not about compromise. It's about what he calls reconfiguration, right?
Yes, exactly. Reconfiguration.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through it.
So first, we separate, like we identify the specific aspects of each person's identity that feel threatened in this conflict.
Okay.
And then we explore the possibility of assimilation.
Okay.
Could one person's identity kind of like adapt a little bit to incorporate elements of the other person's?
Gotcha.
And then finally, we look at synthesis.
Okay.
Can we redefine the relationship in a way that both identities can kind of like coexist harmoniously?
So it's about finding a solution where no one feels like they have to completely abandon who they are or what they believe.
Exactly.
Like that example he gives of Linda and Josh.
Yes.
The couple that clashed over the Christmas tree.
Yes, the Christmas tree.
That one really stuck with me.
It's a good one.
Because it seemed like, well, how on earth are they gonna...
Right.
Because, like, her Protestant upbringing, you know, the Christmas tree was like the central...
Yeah, very important.
Very important part of celebrating the holiday.
Right.
Whereas, like, his Jewish faith saw it as, you know, a conflict of values.
Right, right.
But they used this system and they found a way to honor both.
They did.
Which is, I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's not about, again, it's not about one person winning at the expense of the other person's beliefs.
Right. It's not a zero-sum game.
Yeah, they found a new way to approach it.
Exactly.
So it's like a totally different way of thinking about conflict. Right?
Slowly.
It's not about digging our heels in. It's
Right.
about, okay, but how can we move forward in a way that respects everybody involved?
It's about shifting from me versus you to like, okay, how do we navigate this together from combat to collaboration?
Which, let's be real, is way easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
When you're in the heat of the moment.
Oh, yeah, when those emotions are high.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and that's where that self-awareness piece is just so crucial, right?
Yeah.
Like just recognizing, okay, hold on, I'm caught in that tribes effect.
Okay.
My identity feels threatened right now.
Yeah.
And that allows us to at least try to make a conscious choice, you know?
Okay.
Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just hit pause for a second.
Yeah.
Give ourselves a little space to like cool down,
Yeah.
reconnect with ourselves before we jump back in.
It's like hitting the pause button on the argument before it escalates into like a full-blown war.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Because ultimately, it's not about declaring war.
That's right.
It's about finding peace.
Peace and understanding.
Yeah, and remembering that behind those like seemingly irreconcilable differences, right,
Yeah.
are real people with real feelings and deeply held values.
Yeah.
And when we can approach those disagreements with empathy and respect,
That's where the magic happens.
that is where the magic happens. Transforming those impossible conflicts from battlegrounds into bridges. Bridges to deeper connection, mutual respect, and maybe even, dare I say, a more harmonious world.
No, there's a thought, right?
Yeah.
So next time you find yourself kind of locked in that battle of wills, remember, it's not about winning the argument.
It's so much bigger than that.
It's about understanding that deeper story.
Yes.
What identities are at play here? What narratives are kind of shaping this conflict?
Mm-hmm.
And then, most importantly, like, how can you use that knowledge to transform that conflict into, an opportunity for growth, for
Exactly.
understanding? That's something to chew on, wouldn't you say?
100%.